Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Sophie, and these are 10 classics I want to read this year.
Bibliosophie.
I guess the first question or topic that needs to be briefly addressed is, what is a classic? How old does a book need to be a classic? How entrenched does it need to be in the canon? Maybe some of these books are not classics to you. Some of them are not extremely old. Almost all of the books I'm going to mention are from the 20th century. So if you disagree with me, you are welcome to beef with me in the comments, although I'm warning you, my response will probably be, okay, sure, I understand. And that's it. First up on the list is something that is very firmly entrenched in the English language canon. It is John Milton's Paradise Lost from 1667. This is an epic poem based on Genesis about the creation and the downfall of humankind. Milton wrote it when he was old, basically blind, basically excommunicated, bitter, and really musing philosophically and spiritually and cosmologically on what it means to be human. I am a little afraid that I will find this boring. It is a long poem. I am reading it because I think it will be useful for some personal artistic projects of mine. Hi, by the way, if you don't know me, I am a classical singer and I am looking at this as partially research. I'm also thinking about it because Modern Ajama read it this past year and did not like it, so that kind of reminded me that I have never actually gotten around to this chunky classic. Let's see if I like it more than she did. Next up is another chunker that I'm kind of afraid I'm not going to like. This is Le Rouge et le Noir by Stendhal, The Red and the Black in English. If you are French, this is also very, very firmly in the core curriculum, but I've never gotten around to it, so I figured I would try it. This is from 1830, and its subtitle is A Chronicle of the 19th Century. This is very much a social commentary on French society at the time. It follows a young provincial man as he tries to make his way into the world, and through his story, we're discovering how French society works at this time. Major classic, and I'm a little overwhelmed by it, quite honestly. Also, this cover is something else. A theme you're going to see in a lot of these books is commentary or portrait of a society at a specific time. And next up is definitely another one of those. This is I Am a Cat by Natsume Sōseki. This is from 1905. It is actually three novels in one volume. I don't know if I will read all three or if I'll read the first in the collection. This is following the story of a cat, ergo the title, but through him we see various people from various strata of Japanese society at the end of the 19th century as Japan is opening up to the West, and how different people in different walks of life act, are, and also the kind of melding of Western tradition into Japanese society. So this is another kind of commentary and portrait of a specific place at a specific time. Also from 1905, and also a portrait of a specific society at a specific time, is The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. This follows the story of a young woman, highborn, and her gradual fall from grace in New York's high society. This is a commentary on what that high society is like, and especially for women. And I've never gotten around to reading it, so this year could be the year. Next is another major core curriculum French classic that I somehow never got around to before, Antigone by Jean Anouilh, and yes, that is how you pronounce his name if you've ever wondered what to do with that particular collection of letters. It is Anouilh. This is his rewriting of the Sophocles classic Antigone, which I will probably also reread because it's been many years since I read it. But he sets it under occupation. This is from 1944, and it's a commentary on occupation during World War II and the Vichy regime. Tea break. Next up is East of Eden by John Steinbeck from 1952. I have sort of an accidental Adam, Eve, and Eden through line between Milton and this. I'm already slated to read this book officially because I'll be joining Roisin for her big book club for February, March. This is the pick, and we will at some point be discussing it live on her channel. This is the story of two families in the Salinas Valley in the central coast of California, how their fates kind of weave in and out of one another, and I think probably interact with California at the time, but I actually don't know that much. I know that this is Steinbeck's magnum opus, but I don't really know much about it. So I'm a little bit afraid of reading it because it's very, very long, but I know that a lot of people have adored it. Next up chronologically is Another Country by James Baldwin from 1962. I've mentioned on this channel that I've read a lot of Baldwin's nonfiction, but I'm trying to get more into his novels. I've read 2 so far, and this seems like a great third one for me to read. This follows a jazz musician in New York in the late 50s and his bohemian circle, his relationships to various people around him, themes of race, sexuality, class, love, betrayal in New York, and I believe also Paris. Next up from 1966 is The Promised Land by Grace Ogot. This is about a young Kenyan farmer and his wife. They move to Tanzania to make a better life for themselves, but tragedy befalls them as a result of social tensions, interpersonal turmoil, and materialism, and how they are trying to navigate their lives in society. Once again, a portrait of a time and place. I get really into my head about trying to explain these books that I haven't read in a pithy, informative way, let it be known. Next up from 1980, so relatively recent, but let's face it, not that recent at all, is Une si longue lettre, So Long a Letter in English, by Mariama Bâ. This takes the form of a long letter, ergo the name. It was originally written in French by the Senegalese author. It's a woman, a recently widowed woman, writing a letter to her old friend in which she recounts her life and her experience as a woman, and especially her experience in her marriage when her husband decided to take on a second wife. And finally, by publication date from 1982, we have The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa, but this one has an asterisk, because if you know anything about this Portuguese philosopher, writer, poet, you might know that he died in the 30s, and this book was therefore published posthumously, and well posthumously. This is a sprawling lifetime of work that he called his factless autobiography, and I've been meaning to read it for a while. I don't know really much about it beyond that it is poetic, philosophical, and a factless biography, whatever that means. So that's my list. I'm sure I will be coming across other classics throughout these next 11 or so months. I'm also already planning to read other books that could be called classics, but these are 10 that I found particularly interesting and that I wanted to share with you. Let me know which ones you've read, which ones you have been wanting to read. If you want to read any of them along with me, drop me a comment. See you in the next video.